certainly in racing in Sydney. 40,000 people yesterday at Royal Randwick to see that horse Octagonal do it once again. Max Presnell joins me. Max, what a superb performance.
Yes, undoubtedly. A couple of superb performances yesterday, David. I do think that Gai Waterhouse is something special when you consider three of the first four place getters in a Doncaster, a third consecutive Doncaster, something special. But the big O, Octagonal, he is one racehorse.
Keith Hillier down in Melbourne, the icing on the cake, the performance of Darren Beedman once again. His performances in the last 2 or 3 weeks have been outstanding on this great colt.
A superb ride, and I wished I'd been, David, one of the 40,000 plus at Randwick yesterday to see the big O. The O must be for outstanding. Here at Caulfield, the crowd rose and cheered. The cheer here was deafening. He's a sensational horse, 4 Group 1 wins in 4 weeks, 6 in his career. He's already third on the Australian Stakes tally list. He's very, very special. I think he probably is verging on what John Hawkes thinks he is, a champion.
Max, on any other day, Saintly and Falante would be very hopeful that the Derby was in their keeping.
Yes, but just when you think he's down, just when you think Octagonal's going to take a full count, he gets up, he finds something else. And I've seen better performances in derbies, but I've never seen one as courageous.
Well, owned by the Chicken Kings, the Ingham brothers, but Octagonal proved yesterday he was no chicken when that pressure was on in the final stages, Keith.
Well, that's true. He digs in. That's the quality that Max mentioned, and that's what makes him better than the rest. David Hayes, who was in Sydney yesterday, apparently just likened him to Better Loosen Up, because Better Loosen Up won most of his races by narrow margins. Digs in. He's all quality. He's just a super horse.
The point, David, with him, he's having his third hard run in 3 weeks. Now, that is a massive task.
And he gave away a bit of start yesterday, too.
Yeah, he doesn't. Well, he gave away start because the edge has gone off him. When they got to the 600 metres, Darren Beedman said he was flat. He was in terrible trouble. He couldn't sprint. And that's just where this horse digs deep and always finds something. He's travelling very beautifully there, about 4th last in the all-cerise colours.
Max, you said you've seen better derbies. Gee, it must be a short list, because this is the fastest derby run in its history, 131 years. The first time 2.5 minutes has been broken. I think we've got an outstanding crop of 3-year-olds. Saintly's performance would have won any other derby. But it was just the big O at the finish who was stronger and braver, and he's the total racehorse, I'm sure.
I'd like to define my statement, Keith. I've seen more impressive Derby winners. Derby winners win easier, but I've never seen one win as gutsy.
Well, John Hawkes said this is all he wants to do. He knows what he's going to take to win the race, and he does just that.
It was a very confident ride by Beedman. He had a lot of good cattle in front of him. He starts to make his move now. That's Octagonal running about 7th in the famous all-cerise livery of the Ingham brothers. As you mentioned last week, that they've become popular owners in Sydney, Max.
This is it, where Beedman asks this horse for something and he doesn't zip, but he just keeps coming.
And you can't be critical of Cassidy's ride on Saintly.
No, and Mick Dittman on Falante, like both epic rides. It would appear nothing like a Dane isn't the horse he was in the spring.
This is a grinding Octagonal now. He's grinding away. The others look to have him struggling. Beedman's gone for the whip, but this is where he digs in. This is championship quality. This is a memorable derby finish.
They've come away from nothing like a Dane. Saintly and Octagonal. Beedman throwing everything at Octagonal. He gets there. Yes, Octagonal.
I feel like roaring again, Max.
Feel free, Keith. Feel free. You let him go. Hey,
go big.
So a spell now for the champion, and back for another crack at the Cox Plate. Keith?
Oh, look, the good news is that the owners have decided for him to have at least another dozen races. He's not a powder puff champion either. He won't retire as a 3-year-old. He'll go on at 4. The aim is to win another Cox Plate, an Australian Cup, and the Mercedes Classic again. And who's to say won't make... Oh, we better not make those long-range predictions. We've done that before, haven't we? But he's going to be the horse to beat them all.
I think a quote from Jack Ingham yesterday, somebody said that perhaps they might retire Octagonal to the stud. Jack said, well, I've been waiting for 25 years and about 1,000 horses to get one this good. I'm not going to let him go that quick.
Well, Glenn Boss said to Gay Waterhouse when Sprint won its maiden at Hawkesbury in 1994 that this horse would emerge and be a champion. And after all the problems, Keith, midweek, veterinary inspections and real big problems, it made its own luck yesterday, and Glenn Boss a superb ride on Sprint By in the Doncaster.
Indeed, because it was the 11th hour that Sprint By was officially cleared by the veterinary stewards to run in the race after having lost a lot of his hoof. He's a very good sprinter miler. He's won 9 of his 16 starts, and Gay Waterhouse bring off her 3rd consecutive Doncaster. That hasn't been done for 50 years or so. It was a superb effort by Gay Waterhouse, a superb ride by Glenn Boss, and a courageous performance by Sprint By.
Run the race 10 times and I think you'd get a different result. I think the point must be that it was Boss's ride that won the race. Juggler, I think, would win 8 out of 10. All our mob, who was 4th, I think, in most, if you rerun the race, would have finished a lot closer. But with these big handicaps, it is the ride. There's Boss in the red colours, about 3 off the fence, angling for a run now, making the run.
It wasn't there for a stride or 2, Max, was it?
That's the point. You've got to make your own luck in these big races, and that's what makes a good jockey.
Coming through in the centre, Dana Singer looks to have got to a narrow lead over Sprint By as they get near.
Juggler 3 off the fence with a white cap.
Sprint By wins the Doncaster.
2 more hops and Juggler would have won.
The earlier race, Octagonal 221.20, Saintly 160, Falante 240. These are New South Wales dividends. The trifecta 71.60. Through to the Doncaster, Sprint By Glenn Boss 13.20 and $5. Dana Singer 4.30. Juggler $1.90, and the trifecta a healthy $933.30. We'll take a break. More racing in just a moment. On yesterday's great racing at Royal Randwick, and yesterday the second race, the Fernhill, RS Dye just bided his time on the fence for a wonderful win on Anthems, Max.
Yes, it was again the ride that won the race, but Denendry, I think, put up the performance of the race, and I'm not going to be critical of Darren Beedman because Denendry is just field shy. Won't have any trouble seeing her. That's her on the extreme outside. No Dye in the cerise colours closer to the fence.
Right down the middle of the track, she's green, she's all over the place. 150 out. Elegant Court, Cohiba, Anthem's on the inside, further out Dan Endry, Osavars can't go on, Anthem's got through on the inside, Cohiba in the centre, wide out is Dan Endry, but Anthem's, after being shuffled back at a vital stage, has come away to beat Dan Endry with Cohiba 3rd.
Well, a great ride, the credit given there by RS Dye by Max, Keith, but in the PJ Bell, Ruffles blew the start with RS Dye and he's back.
Yes, Ruffles was a short price favourite, and this provided the most thrilling finish of the day. Watch the 3 fillies go to the line here, and in the end it was Priscina, trained by Bruce McLaughlin. Is Bruce McLaughlin a temporary resident in Sydney, Max?
For the carnival, Keith, but that's Ruffles close to the fence in the Cold Tidies colours, going through now the chestnut, but you mightn't pick it up on this shot, but gets off about 4 or 5 horses late, and undoubtedly that cost Ruffles the race. The slow start didn't help her either.
Yeah, another part of a winning double there for Glenn Boss, but one from that hails from your way, Cornwall King, impressive also yesterday, Keith.
That was a pretty good performance, wasn't it, in winning the Chairman's Handicap, and surely he's got a chance now in the Sydney Cup next Saturday. Steve King thinks that Count Shivers will be the hardest to beat, but that's Cornwall King in front, Stephen King going for home there. And Cornwall King, keep in mind, likes it wet, so if it happens to rain next Saturday, and gee, you've had an unprecedented run of dry weather up in Sydney for your Carnival, Max, then he's a lightweight in the Cup with a chance. The better for Cornwall King.
Well, the Sydney Stayers are pretty average. I'd just like to point out your brilliant poet on the extreme outside there, in the colours very similar to Rough Habit. Missed the start, came out about 15 lengths, I suppose, on settling down behind the field. Did very, very well to finish so prominently, but I just wonder how horses can miss a start by that far in a staying race. Just another way, Keith, to do your brass.
Well, I can't answer that, Max, but you mentioned Rough Habit. John Wheeler took a couple of jumpers to Oakbank yesterday, the famous carnival over there that's underway at Easter. He quineled the consolation steeplechase with a furlong to the third place getter, and his top chaser bolted in the Von Duser, so he's going to dominate Oakbank, I'm sure.
Well, Keith, thanks for your thoughts again on this Sunday. We'll enjoy the rest of this Easter break too, won't you, in the racing down there tomorrow?
I sure will. Thanks, David.
Okay, Keith Hillier joining us in Melbourne. Max, a few to follow for those wonderful punters out there that had such a great day yesterday at Royal Randwick.
Well, certainly I think John Wheeler may be worth following in South Australia, but also with Brilliant Poet. Denendri, I think, mad, bad, dangerous to be around, but one hell of a lot of ability. And Falante, he's not as good as Octagonal, but he's going to win plenty of races.
Okay, great to have your company again.
Terrific to be here.
Okay, Max Presley joining us. We'll take a break on Sports World. There's still plenty more happening here on Channel 7.
Oh, Daddy.